I'm Sean McVeigh with Sean's Outdoor Adventures, and in this video I want to quickly show you how to cast a bait casting fishing rod. First and foremost, I recommend that you practice like in a yard before you go fishing. Here's the reason why. If you have a bait on your line, especially one that sinks very quickly, if you cast this out and you make a mistake and it gets all knotted up and you can't reel it in, that can sink to the bottom and get hung up and you'll lose your lure and things like that. So I strongly recommend practicing at home. So that's why I'm standing in a yard right now. I want to just show you how to do this. So to cast a bait casting fishing rod, I want to talk about two ways of doing it: overhand casting and sidearm casting. In general, if you're new, it's a little easier sidearm, because a lot of times people who are casting overhand can get their, if they don't get it moving right, they can get their lure stuck on their rod. Whereas if you're doing it sidearm, the lure stays out past the end of the rod. So those are just two little things I'll mention. But typically what you'll do with a bait casting rod is, first you'll want to set it up properly. And the way to do that is you press the button that disengages the line, and depending on the weight of your lure, you'll want it to just either hold it a little bit or just slowly begin to drop. And that's going to have the tension somewhat right. And each rod is differently, but there's a little dial on the side that you can tighten and loosen that. So for example, if you hit that button and it goes flying right to the floor, it's too loose. You'll want to tighten it up a little bit so that it clamps that drag a little bit and goes down slower. One of the reasons for that is when you reach the end of your cast, you don't want that spool going so fast that if it gets out from under your thumb a little bit, it's just going to cause a lot of birds' nests, and well, that's what you call a big tangle when it gets all spun. Because what happens with a bait caster is when you cast it out, the spool is spinning. You're going to have your thumb on the spool to slow it down, but if you don't slow it down soon enough and the lure hits the water, it's going to keep spinning and actually begin to wrap itself in the other direction, and it causes major knots. So that's the challenge of a bait caster. So what I would say is reel it up to about around 12 inches to the end of your rod. Now I just have a little weight on here to practice in the yard. So now I'm going to hit the thumb, or hit the trigger with my thumb and put my thumb on the line itself. Now I'm going to do an overhand cast, and when I come forward with the cast, I'm going to let go of the spool right here. But I'm going to have my thumb just, to where I can just barely feel the string. You know, it'll come off a little bit, but especially if you're new, have it barely touching a little bit. And then as your weight is, or your lure is getting close to the water, begin to put pressure on the spool with your thumb. So now, with the cast, as you see, everything's fine. What I did is I just allowed the pressure on the spool as it's reaching the end of the cast, and you put more pressure as it's getting closer until you stop it with your thumb. Here, I allowed it to go just a little bit, and you can see how it's jumped up here. I just wanted to give you an example, but I didn't want it to go so bad that it would knot up. So what you'll do, if you get a little bit or a backlash, you'll just pull the line out until all that excess line that was sticking up is off. And you're down to the good spool again. If you get a backlash though, it could actually knot up where you actually have knots in there, and it'll take you a little while. One thing I recommend if you're new is stop it intentionally early, just so you can get the feel for it and help yourself avoid backlashes. Now I'll do a sidearm cast. One thing to be careful of with a sidearm cast, it's a little easy to hold on too long and make it go off to the side. But that's another reason why you practice in your yard before going out. Another thing to keep in mind with a bait caster is, especially if you're new, give yourself a lot of room. Don't let anybody be around you. That way you don't have to worry so much about being in complete control as you're still learning it. One thing to do to help yourself improve as you begin to get better at it is put little objects in the yard and try to hit those with your cast. You can make a little game out of it even. So there you have it. I hope that helps. This is just a little introduction on how to cast a bait caster. practice in your yard. If you know, get a little weight, that's the best thing. Or if you don't have a designated weight, take the hooks off of a lure that you don't mind getting nicked up a little bit and use that. Make sure you check out some of my other videos. I'll put some links in the description section of this video for related fishing videos. I also do a lot of archery and hunting videos. You can check some of those out. So enjoy yourself out there, and until next time, take care and God bless.